All right, so today we are going to be talking about forms in HTML, and at the same time how we can generate some of these entity symbols. Because any site you see, you always see that they are using this copyright symbol on their page. But apart from this, there's other symbols that you want to use that you don't have access to them on the keyboard. So how do you use them on your page? You can use what is known as this entity symbol or entity character. But there are two methods that you can use to generate them. You can use the entity name method, or you can use the entity number. But there's a problem, or there's a little problem with this entity name. Not all the symbols I want to use have name attached to them. So even though you know their name, but they are not being represented by the name, you have to use the entity number. All of them have number, but not all of them you can use their name to generate uh, that symbol. And how do you do it from your code? So in order for you to generate this thing from your code, you can either use what we talked about before, which is this entity name like this. So for example, to generate any symbol there, you're going to start with this symbol, this ampersand symbol, then followed by the name of the symbol that you want to generate. To generate this stuff, you start with this symbol here, which is the ampersand symbol there, which is on your keyboard, which is like and key. It's normally on 7 there like that. So if you use shift and 7, it will generate that. Then the next thing is now the name of the symbol that you want, but it's something that it needs to be valid. You don't just type any name anyhow. So VS Code come with a lot of them that you can see directly from VS Code, and after that you are going to have this semicolon. It's very important. That's how it's going to know that what you are doing here is the entity symbol. So when you start with this and followed by the name, then followed by the semicolon, it will look for it. If it is a valid entity symbol, it will display it on the screen. But if it's not valid, whatever you type, that's what you are going to see on the screen, as you can see here. Because this is not valid, but because I'm using it to just explain how this thing used to look like. But anyone that is valid, you see that VS Code will change the color to this. But if it's not valid, as you can see, this one is a white color. But we have a lot of them. For example, now, if I want to generate right arrow, like arrow that is facing right, or the one that is facing left, or the one that is facing up, or the one that is facing down, I can generate it directly here using VS Code because they have name attached to them. So start with this. Then the next thing is now the name of the, as you can see, VS Code have a lot of them already that you can use, or just press Ctrl space bar. VS Code will bring all of them out. All those ones that have name attached to them, as you can see, there's a lot of them. Even though it's not all the icons that have a name, but a lot of them too, as you can see, it have a name attached to them. Majorly, what you'll be using among all of them is this copyright one that we have, and the name for that one is just copy, then semicolon. There like that. Save. You see that once you see it, it will generate the symbol for me like this. And we have a lot of them. The one I said I want to do before, so this is going to be the right arrow, then close. So you can see that the color change. It means it's valid like that. So save. And once this thing get to the page, you see that I'm not seeing the arrow on the page. So you can generate it using the name of it, or you can use the number for that particular icon there. I don't put the number in my head because you can get them online. Just go online, search for any icon you want, mention the entity symbol, and it's going to bring it out. The same thing too, I can do it for the right, and as you can see, it will give me the right, or I can do it for the up. So the up arrow like this, then save, then instead of it to face down, it will now face up. So you can generate different symbols by using this entity name, but you know it follow this pattern where you have this and symbol, then followed by the name of the symbol, and very important here, the semicolon. The semicolon is not there, it will not interpret it for you like that. So if I remove it, as you can see now, it's not showing again. And once you get to the screen, it will just type whatever you put there. So that semicolon is very important, because that's how it's going to know that this is entity symbol, not normal text typing, because you can actually type something like this as a text. So how is it going to know that it's normal text or it's entity symbol? That's the semicolon at the end. You know, it's not a tag, so it's just normal text that you are putting together. But not all of them that you can generate through the name. So instead of you generating them through the name, you can generate them through the assigned number. So each icons have number that is assigned to them. You just need to mention the number. But you know that when you are dealing with name, what you just type is this and symbol, then followed by name. But when you are dealing with number, you need to put this hash so that it knows that you are dealing with number, not the name. There like that. So you're still going to start with that and symbol like this. Even that and symbol too, you can generate it there or by using its number or by using its name. That is the name, which is the ampersand symbol. Once I save it, you see that it's going to come out on the screen. But it's something I can type on my keyboard already, so I don't need to start doing it. But you know this right arrow, left arrow, whatever stuff, you can't see them on the keyboard. So entity symbol will help you out with that. But anything you can type on your keyboard, just type it directly and you are good to go. Or you can even use the entity symbol too. It will work. For example, I have this post, which is apostrophe. So that's, you know, it's already on the keyboard that you can type, but you can still generate it too through this. You can see it's going to generate, but here I can just type it from the keyboard instead of wasting my time to use. But at some time you need to use entity symbol, not the one that you copy, because sometimes you copy the text that have apostrophe, but that apostrophe you copy is not correct or is not in the format that it's supposed to be there. Because most of the when you copy something from Word, the way Word is representing its own character is different from the normal editor. So it might see it as something that is different. So you can use your post here to make it. But we are not talking about the name. We are talking about the number. So the hash will follow, then followed by the number of the symbol. Then that semicolon is very important. And once you post the number, it will generate the icon or the symbol that is corresponding. So this is the integral symbol. So this integral symbol now, I'm generating it through this number 643. If I want to, yeah, I can generate the plus or minus. I just need to find their number, which is something we can get online. Or at the same time too, we are creating a page like Jumia. For example, here now, going to Jumia.ng here, you see that in front of their products, they have the Naira symbol in front of the this in the price for each one of the items. So how do you to do something like that? For example, you look at it now, we have this 25,000 or 25,800. So you two are creating a page for your business and you want to list them out and you want to put the price there like that. So how do we now generate this Naira symbol? So we can use this entity symbol. You can copy it directly from here. If you see it online, just copy it. This is the cheapest way of doing it like that. Go to any site that is using it or go to Google, just search for Naira symbol like that, then 25,800 like this. Go back to the page and you see that we have access to it. But instead of me finding it around from different websites there, I can just use my entity symbol. So for Naira, the entity symbol I think is 8358 here. So that's the code for Naira. So save, and once you get to the screen, as you can see, it's still the same. But if I put something that is different, maybe 51 here, it will give us another icon entirely, which is not related to what we want. But any symbols that you want and you want to use entity symbol to generate them, just go to online, type the name of the symbol you want, and you put the HTML code in front of it. For example, I can just say Naira HTML entity or code like that, and as you can see, it's going to bring out different results for us. You can just click on it to see the stuff, or yeah, I don't even like this Bing. Let me use Google. Google is more better than this one. So let me go to Google, then HTML entity symbols like this, and as you can see, the first result you are going to get, you're going to see list of different HTML. Can you see them? So for copyright, once you click on it, it will give you can see for the HTML entity, this is the name and this is the number. So when you want to use number, this is the one you use. When you want to use the name, this is what you use, which is something we've done already there. And if it is this art you want to use, click on it. You see that the code is this comma here, or you can use the number, which is 4. But this is not the one we want. We actually want the naira there like that. And that's why this site now, it have a lot of icons. So just keep scrolling down. Do you see the one you are looking for? Or instead of me just coming here, I can just look for the naira itself. Why is it not? Oh, I did not put naira. I just say HTML. I know that it's supposed to be naira. So naira HTML code like this. So save it, and as you can see, to generate it, it is this. You can see Google is showing the code directly. I don't like that being, because that one is not showing it the way I want. Or you can, which is still getting it from that side. But this one now, it will take us to the page for the naira itself. Can you see that there is no name? So it doesn't have name. The only thing you have access to is just the number. So not all of them that have name, but all the icons have a name, number to them. Not all of them that have name, but all of them have number. And again too, we have all these emojis too. They have their HTML entity code like that. So let me search for it and go to this page. We're going to see different emojis that we can use. As you can see, all this one, we can use them on our page. We just need to pass in their the entity. As you can see, they have number, but there is no name attached to them, because the people that created this thing did not put the name there. They just focus on the number alone. So to use this icon now, we just need to use this entity symbol. So going back to our page, so let me use another li inside it, and let me paste all these one here. So going back to our page, and as you can see, it's going to bring all of them out like that. So you can generate this in through the number or through the name, but not all of them that you can use name for. But you can use the number to get any one of them like that. So you know, like dollar now, you don't need to be using entity symbol, even though it's here, but it's already on the keyboard. Every keyboard have a dollar already. But now some keyboard, if it is useless, you are not going to see euro. So, and you want to use euro on your page, euro actually have name attached to it. So here now, we can just use our euro like this. So save of 56 euro of 56 200 like or 299 like this. And once you get to the screen, as you can see, it will, if it is pounds too, you can generate it just because they are common. So there's no way they will not have the name for all this one. So save. As you can see, even though I don't have it on my keyboard, but I have access to it through the entity name or the entity number. Because any one of them that have name, we always have number. But not all of them that have number, we have name attached to them. But the one you'll be using most of the time, or the one you'll be seeing on different sites, is this copyright. Majorly, you always see it a lot, as you can see here. So it's here. Almost all the sites always put this copyright at the bottom of their site, even though these people did not use the icon, but they have the copyright there like that. So here too, as you can see, Microsoft copyright 2025 Microsoft there like that. The same thing too, go to Google and check it out. You see that almost all the sites use this thing a lot like that, because anytime you build any site, you always want to show the copyright at the bottom of the site there. The same thing here too, as you can see, that symbol is appearing there like that. So that's just all about that part. The major stuff that we want to talk about today is the form, because it's not every time that you display information to the user. That sometimes you need to collect information. So in order for us to collect information from the user, we need to be able to use the form element. As you can see, I'm using entity symbol here. at that place. So going into this form element, so inside the A tag, as you can see, I'm using both the text and this entity symbol combined together so that I can, give visual to the user what is going to happen. Like I'm going back to the previous page. So and what did I do there? What I just did is just to point it to index.html because the two files, they are inside the same folder. So this is index down here, and this is form. So they are inside the same folder. And since they are inside the same folder, I mentioned it last time that you just mentioned the name of the file and the extension. The same thing here too. When we are connecting to form, as you can see, I only mention the name and the extension because they are together in the same folder. So I don't need to specify the location, just the name of the file and its extension, and the browser will figure out the remaining parts of the link. So here now, going down back to our form, so over on it, as you can see, I'm not the one that put all this 127 whatever stuff. The browser figured it out that since you mentioned the name of the file, it means it's coming from the folder where this file is. So since the file index.html here is inside this folder, so it will assume that that form too is coming from there. So it will just use that folder as to complete the link for you automatically, like that. That's why you don't need to stress yourself because the browser won't do any internal linking for you. But you have to use the correct one, whether it is same folder or the child folder or the parent. But for now, we are focusing on the same folder. But later on, we are going to add the child and the parent one because then every time we are going to be putting all the files together, we need to group them so that it's easier to manage there like that. But let me enter the form. So when you're talking about the form, just like what I mentioned, we use the form to gather or collect information from the user. And in order for you to do that, we have something referred to as form element. So this is what we use. This element now is what we use to group all the related controls together. So we have form on its own to gather information, but we have something known as a form element. So which means you are going to be using a tag to generate that element. And inside the form element, you are going to be generating different controls are there. So controls is what you use to actually collect information from the user. And this is what we call control here. So looking at this side, as you can see on this, their page for contact you, as you can see they have the box to collect your email, the phone number, your name, the school name, and the message. So each one of these boxes here are what we call the form controls. But everything together are grouped in form element. So the job of form element is to group all your controls together, and it will be able to you'll be able to work with them as a collective there, like a collection of data. So I have one form, but inside that form you have multiple controls, and the form knows about all the controls that will be inside it, and the browser can process all these files and send them at once, not that it will be sending them one by one. You can actually use the control separately on their own, like without putting it in the form element. But if you know that you have a form or you have controls that you want them to be as a group, then you need to put them inside form element, and the browser will do some magic for you behind the scene there like that. But for us, we are not processing the stuff. We just want to see how to generate all these controls on the screen. But this site is actually generating it and at the same time using the stuff, because whatever you pass here, it will get sent down to them there, and they will be able to communicate with you and do whatever they want to do with you. But you are going to be using controls to gather information from the user. And we have different type of controls that you can use. So we have this input control, we have the select control, and we have the text area control. So when you're talking about the input, we use this one to collect short information like first name, last name, and so forth like that. And again, it's what you use to collect the password. Is what you can use for the user to pick a file. You can go online and they will tell you to upload your passport or to upload your CV or whatever stuff. But you are clicking on something and it opens up your picker on the system or the phone to pick the file that you want to upload. Behind the scene, what they are using is the input, but it's using of this file here like that. All the checkbox, when you go online, that you have to agree to terms and conditions. So what they are using there is checkbox, or where you need to pick gender, like male or female, but you can't pick the two. There's only one that can be picked at the time. That's where radio comes in. Checkbox, you have multiple, you can have multiple of them on one, but that one you can pick from the list, not just one item. You can pick multiple, and you can remove the one that you pick. But with radio, you have multiple options, but only one is permissible at a time. That's its own. Anytime you have a list of options for the user, but they can only pick one out of it, what you use is radio. If you have a list of options and user can pick multiple out of that option, or deselect anyone that you've picked before, that's where the checkbox comes in. Each one of them have the time, or depending on the data you want to collect from the user that you are going to be using. And we have select, which is something I've showed to you yesterday there. This one too, you have a list of options, but the user can pick from that list. But the advantage of that one is, as you can see, it's kind of a compact. So this is what we call select here. You click on it, it brings out a list for you, and it's not left for you to pick from that. No. It's not. Google Form is using controls, so every site can use it. It's not that it's clear to Google Form. Once you need that something like that, you just generate it from your code, and that's what we want to do today. Like when we need something like this, what do we need to type to be able to have something like this on our page? So Google is using the controls. That's why you can see there. The safety tool Remita is using the control. That's why we can see here and so forth like that, depending on the site. Again, to look at the Nairaland, we can search something here by NYSC, which what we did yesterday, and as you can see too, it's still the same thing that is here. So any site can use it, as long you are using the correct HTML tag to generate that controls. You can use it on your page there like that. So this is what we call select, where you have a list of drop down. Then once you pick it, as you can see, it closes back. So if it is radio now, that radio, whatever you have, this is now this is checkbox here now. So checkbox, you can click or you can uncheck it. But if it is radio, that one you cannot uncheck it. You can only pick from the option there like that. And I don't see any radio here, because where you normally use it is when you have something like gender and so forth like that. I think Facebook is using it. Let me just go to this fb.com and go to their login or to their sign up page. You'll see that they have this gender selection, whatever stuff there. Yeah, so let's create an account. It will bring out this stuff out, a modal for us. Create an account. So bring this in. Can you see now? You can pick male, and once you click the other one, as you can see, it leaves the first one. You cannot pick two at a time. It's only one of them that it's going to be selected. But it doesn't work like that by default. There's some stuff you need to do before it starts working like this. And as you can see too, they are using the same select that we saw there. So any site can use it. Your own is just to type the code that will generate the elements on the screen. So we too, let's see how we can generate. So this is input, but input come in different variants depending on the type that you want. And that is the most used controls out of all these one. And what about this last one? So what about the text area? So this text area is useful anywhere you need to collect a large information. So, and this is text area down here. As you can see, it's really wide, so you can type, you can press enter and move. But with input, that one, whatever you are typing is always on one line. You cannot press enter to move to, as you can see, you cannot press enter to move to next line. No, it's used to collect short information. But when you need to collect a large information that need to span multiple lines, the text area is what you need at that place there like that. So now that we've seen each one of them, so how do we generate it in our code? So in order for us to generate all these elements, so the first thing we need to do is to generate our form element itself, so which is the one we are going to use to group them together. But before I get there, there is one that I skipped that I did not talk about, which is known as label. So this one is what we use to describe your input. So here now, without this label now, there is no way you know what you have to put here or what they are expecting from you here. And if you go back to that other side too, you see that it's there too. So you can say it's there too. But sometimes Again, there is one that used to be inside the box, and there is one that used to be outside of the box. So the one that is outside of this box is what we call label. While the one that is inside the box is what we call place holder. But not all of them that you can use placeholder. No, it's inside. The one that you can type in, that's what you can use placeholder. But if you cannot type in, you cannot use placeholder. But let's see how we can generate them. So let us to create something like this in our form. So we want to have a form for get in touch. So let's go down. Yeah. So under the input, I want to create my form element. So it's just the tag. Forget about this action that is showing right now because we are not submitting the form. So I will just clean it. Where we need to work is inside the form itself. So whatever controls you want to use, you are going to place them inside the stuff. Let me disable this AI. I don't want it to be. So here now, to type it, just type your input like this. Can you see? We have different type of input. So we have the checkbox, the color, the date, time, the email, and so forth like that. So it can help you to generate any one of them. But by default, when you don't specify the one you want, it always defaults to text. So which means this input now is going to give you a box where the user can type. But what are they typing? It doesn't care. Anything can go inside the box. As you can see, it will give us a box like this where we can type. And as you can see here, there is this attributes which is generated for us by default. You can remove it, it will still be the same thing. Whether you put that attribute there or not, it will still be that text by default. But most of the time, you need this attribute because that's what you are going to use to talk to the input, the type that you want. Now we have different types of input. So for this one, we want to use text. Again, this another very important attribute you might need to use, which is what I mentioned that time, placeholder. So this placeholder is what you use to give extra information about the box. So on the page now, we just put this box. What is this box all about? What are we expecting from the user? So it's better we give that information here now. But this one too is not that good, and that's why we need a label. So enter your user name. So anybody now that get to this page, seeing this box, they already know what to put inside the box. Yes, I will get there. So that's what I want to explain now. But this one now, once you start typing, this thing will disappear. Because the only time it will show is when you don't have anything inside the box. But once you type your text inside the box, that one is gone. But you know, if you have a lot of form, the user can quickly forget what you are actually expecting inside that box. So that's why it's good to use both of them or to use label alone. Yeah, as you can see that this side now using both the placeholder and at the same time label. So label is always outside of your input, even though you can move it inside through CSS later on and some other grouping element. But for now, they are a separate element. So we have element for label and we have element for input separately there like that. So now do you generate that one? To generate the label, we just need to type it where we want it to appear. So we have this label here. As you can see, it's coming out with this attribute 4 here. But what is that 4 doing? I'm going to explain it soon. So I have this user name. So save now. As you can see, it will now appear beside the text. And I've explained what is going on here before. This means that this is an inline element. So they occupy the space of their content, not the entire space. So if you want them to be on a separate line, for now, we can use the BR. But later on, with CSS, you are going to see a better way of doing it like that. But what is this for here? This label here and this input is always good that you connect them together. Even though they are side by side, they don't know about each other. They don't know that they are for each other. And what did I mean for that? What I mean is that anytime you click on this label, it's supposed to be as if you are clicking on the box. Because if you click on the box, as you can see, it will activate the box. The same thing too, we want to do it with label. And that's why you see that on Facebook, I'm not clicking on that circle itself. I'm only clicking on the box and it's activating the stuff. What they are doing there is because of what I just talked about, and they connect the label to the controls. Now, if I go there, it will work, or I just need to click anywhere there, it will still work. I'm not clicking on the control itself. I'm clicking on the label and it's activating the control. What is going on there is that the label and the control knows about each other. That means they are kind of connected. So how do you connect them together? That's where this for is here for. So this label is for which control? That's what it's asking now. Which control am I going to work with? So now here, whatever you'll be putting here is the ID of the controls that you want to connect that label to. And that ID is another attribute that you can use on any element, not just for controls alone. You can use ID for any element, which is like a matric number for students. So here now you are saying this particular input, you are giving it this unique name that you can use to communicate with it later on. And for now, I can just use the same thing, but it's always good I use something that is descriptive. So I'll just use username like this. So which means I'm giving this input a name. I'm giving it ID, and that ID is this username. So any element can connect to it later on through this particular name. You know you're going to have different inputs, but how do you know which one are you communicating with? Through this unique name that you pass into the ID. So here now for the for, we just need to give it that same name. So what you're saying here, this input or this label connect to any element that have this particular ID. You know, I'm not saying input. Connect to any element that have particular ID. So which means it can be select, it can be input or any other element later on. Because it's not related to only input. You can give any element ID. And through that ID, you can communicate with it later on. So now saving this code, going back to our page now, the two of them now knows about each other. Once we click on this one now, as you can see, it triggered the box because they are now connected together. It's not a must you do it like that, but when you are working in Recence, it's always good that you do it for what we call the user experience. No, there are two things here. We have the UI and we have the UX. So the UI is what we refer to as the user interface. So this is the user interface, which is every element you are seeing on the screen, the colors, and so forth like that. But that's not the only thing you work on. We have the UX, which is now the user experience. So what's the experience of the user with your UI? It's not just about that your UI is fine. Does it have, is it kind of easier to work with on the page? Not that I go to a site, before I can do simple stuff, I have to click different stuff because I can achieve simple things. So it, you know, it will get to a point, if it's something that people used to do a lot, it will start getting boring. So users should be able to have that kind of experience. Just like OPay now, you know, their experience is really, really crazy. Like, it's really, really good. Even though the UI is still okay, it might not look like some other, but the experience there is really mad. Like, we want to do something, it's kind of easier to do. So that's experience. And we have the UI, which is now all the control. So what we did here is to generate the UI first. Then again, we add the experience. So the user doesn't need to come to this box before they can activate it. They can just click on the one here. The same thing too, which is what Facebook is doing. You don't need to start coming into the circle itself. Just click on anywhere inside that box. It will activate the stuff automatically. So the experience and the UI are there. But for training purpose, it's not every time that I'm going to be putting ID and label for like that. So sometimes I will skip them because that's not the major thing we are talking at that point. But it's always good that you do it like that. So let me move this thing up like this. But like something I just did now, this is what we call comment here. Let me explain this one too, because I mentioned it yesterday that I'm going to talk about it. So when you are working on your page, there's some stuff you have in your code that you don't want to see on the screen. They are just notes to explain or to just, you know, leave some kind of a comment for whoever is going to be reading that code, that this is the reason why I'm doing something like this on this line, or this is the reason why we put this code at this particular place. Or you can even use it to make your particular stuff that you don't want to see on the screen not to come outside. And that's what I'm doing here, because I don't want all this thing to appear on the screen. So we can comment them out. And how do you create a comment in HTML? Because you can do it too in CSS and in JavaScript. And each one of them have the way you do it. So to create a comment in HTML, so what you do is to start it with this same, as if you want to create a tag, but to start with this exclamation mark, then followed by the double hyphen. As you can see, VS Code has generated the close one. So this is the opening here, and this is a closing here. So whatever you now have in between it is now the comment. As long as you are still in between this and this, it will treat them as comment. So what it will happen that when the browser get to this line, so it will just, oh, this is just comment, it will skip it and continue with the other stuff. So that when you now get to the page, you see that it will not part of the output. Because what the browser is doing is that it's interpreting, it's reading everything line by line, and it's carrying out the instruction. But once you get to this particular line there, oh, this one, you don't want me to do anything. It will just skip it to move to line 44. So you will not see anything, it will not interpret anything there. And I will be using it a lot. Anywhere I don't want anything to appear on the screen, but I still want to leave it as a reference so that you can go there and read it again there like that. Because I don't like to delete, I always leave them so that it will be as a reference for us later on when we are doing something that is related to that. So here now we have our input. So we need to generate other one too, just like the way we have this. So we can generate, there's a lot of attributes that you can give to input too. But for now, that's the one we need. But input can receive a lot of, course, you can't put something inside it. So you talk to it through the attributes there. So attributes are what you use to talk to most of all this your self-closing tag. You talk to them through attribute. And as you can see here, we have 1, 2, 3 on the input there. So let's generate another one again, but this time around now, we want to collect their password because we want to create a login form. So the next thing we need to do is to have another label. This one is going to be for password because that's the ID I'll be using for my controls here. So the text that is going to show to the user is password. Then after the label, now I want to generate the input. But the input I want to generate is the password version, because once you put the type in front, VS Code is going to complete it for you instead of changing the type. So once I press enter, as you can see, it put the type as password, and again it's generating the name and ID. Now I told you that there are different attributes you can use. What is this name? This is another important attribute on your controls, because this is but I will talk about it soon. But for now, let me just pass the ID, because the ID of the label must match the ID of this one. The 4 of the label must match the ID of the control. Again, too, let's give it a placeholder there, which is going to be enter your password like this. So save, and once you get to the screen, we have it, but we don't want them to be side by side like this. So I will put my BR so that we can have them on top of each other. And if you look at this one, I say it's not showing what I'm typing. It's showing as a password because we specify the type. When you use text as the type, anybody can see what you're typing and you can type anything. Password, you can type anything too, but nobody will see what you are typing. So this thing comes with different types that you can use, and we're going to be seeing a lot of them later on there. But for now, this is the one I just want to talk about before I move to this checkbox and radio, because they are kind of silly, like they have some crazy stuff attached to them. Most of this radio, now I told you that it doesn't work like the way it's supposed to work by default. There's some stuff you need to do before it starts working, like the way we are seeing that agenda that we can only pick one. So here now, how do we submit our form? Now, when you go to any site, you only see like a button there to click to submit the form like that. So what do we need to be able to do that? So we have different ways of generating buttons, but the simplest way of doing it is just by using this button tag. And inside it, you put whatever text or content. It can be text, it have open and closing. So once you have open and closing, you can put anything inside it. So I can put text if I want, but I will just say login here like that. So save. By the time you get to the screen, as you can see, it's inline element too. So in order for us to see it on a different line, we need to use our BR. What's going on? BR like this, BR like this, another BR again to save, so that we can have it on multiple lines. So look at this stuff here now. Look at my browser. You see that this thing is going to reload. So once I click on this, as you can see, it reload the page. What is happening is that form is submitting everything that you type here. But you did not type anything. So, but let me put something like this, and let me click on login again. It submitted But normally, suppose whatever we are submitting by default, it will add it to the URL that you have here. But if you look at it now, after our URL, what we just have is question mark. But what we type is not there. Why? Is because the reason why it's not working is because it knows about the control, but it doesn't know the name to use to send the data that is there. When you don't give a name, it will not send anything you have inside your form. So if you want this thing to send the data that you are working with, so each one of the controls you want needs to have that name attribute. And whatever you pass inside the name, that's what it's going to use to send the data you have inside the form. So here now, if I give this one U, whatever you type here, it will send it through this name U. So for, let me just say let me use pass like this. And for this one, I will just say the name is just user. So whatever you type inside this input, when you submit the form will take everything you have inside it and it will process it, then send it along in the URL. But what is it going to use to send the data you type here? It will use this name. So for the second one, it will use this name. If you don't put any name, it will not send the value. It will not know how to send the value out. But you can actually do it yourself using JavaScript later on, which is what we are going to do. But using form, you don't need to attach any JavaScript. It will do the magic for you behind the scene. And that's the reason why we put them under the form element. If you separate them and you don't put them under the form element, they don't know about each other. So you have to be the one that will connect them. But since we put everything under the form element knows about all the controls under it that has name. So all those ones that have name now, it will pick them. Even if it doesn't have name, it knows about them. Just that when you want to process, it will not be able to send the details if the name is not there. But once the name is there, it will process it for you automatically there anytime you submit your form. So now, if I put this testing, so for the password, this one is going to be my pass like this. So now once I click, you can see nothing is here. But after clicking on login, now can you see the user now is showing? So the name you use, this is the value you type. So for the other one, this is the name and this is the value you type. So it's trying to submit the stuff back to the page we are working on. But why is it submitting it to the page we are working on? It's because this form here, we did not specify where we want to submit it for. You know, like the href. If you don't put anything inside the href, it will just dump it back to the page we are working on. But if you want to send it to another place, just use action. So whatever you pass inside this action, that's where it will submit the form to. For example, here now, HTTP, even though this thing is not expecting anything from us, so www.google like this. So what this means is that once you submit the form, it will send all this information to this address. Even though the thing is not expecting anything from us, so Google will not do anything. So come back here. So now I click on login. You see that why not save the code? Let me check. The code is saved. Yes, everything is here. So let me type it again. So we have Samson here as a username. Then the password is going to be password like this. So click on login. As you can see, it will submit the details to Google. But Google is not expecting this information from. Even the search you are using here, Google is using that same thing here. But what they are using, the name they put on this input here is known as Q, which I can use it to connect to my site. Like I can create a search box from my site, then it will now take us to Google to do the search for us like that. And this is what I'm saying here, because we have another type of input that we can use. So let me create another form. So here I'm going to have another form. Inside this form, the action is going to be HTTPS, because that's the address for, so I'm putting the full address of Google like that. So google.com like this. That's what we want to submit it to. Then inside the box, we want to have a label. It's going to be for search. So the value is going to be search anything on Google like this. So after that, I'm going to have input, but now it's going to be of type search. That's another input of type search. And what is it going to give us? So the Q is the name, because that's what the Google is expecting. So for the ID, I'm going to give it search because I'm connecting it to the label. Then after that, I want to have a button to submit. While here, I'm going to put search like that. So save. And once we get to the screen, as you can see, we have it here. But what do we need to do? So how to create HTML page. So everything that I type here now, it will submit it as Q to Google. And since Google is expecting Q because they are search by default, anytime you type something, that box that you see there, it is Q. And again, look at what happened now. Can you see that this box now is show cross because I'm using your type search. So type search normally is supposed to have, the user should be able to clear everything at once and search for another thing, not like the normal text. You can see that it's not showing it here. So for each one of the type of the control you mentioned for the input, it's going to give you different design. Sometimes the design will be different and you'll not be able to even type, or it will show another thing entirely there like that. But let me click on search here, and once the thing is done like that, what's going on? Where did I have the button? Yes, they are together. So action. Look at what I typed. So the address is wrong. So I just type att. Where is the p? The p is missing. So let me go back to the page. So how to create HTML page? Then click on the search. You see that can you see that it pick up what I type? Because this box is actually connected to Q. So once Google see it, it will just pick it up. But before you know, we are sending pass and user. Google is not expecting anything like that from us, so nothing will happen. But because Google here, this box that they have, it actually have that name attached to it. So if you check the code that they are using to generate this thing, you see that even though here they are using text area, but if you look at the name there, so where is the name? Name is going to be somewhere. Where are you? Yeah. So can you see the name is what? Q. So which means once you search there, it will just send this. Can you see? It will send it and it will put whatever you type inside the box like that. So let's continue. Yes? What? No, it depends on what you want. Whatever name you attach to your controls, that's what the thing will pick up. But Google is using Q, which is short for query. No, you are querying their system. So that's just the reason they are using Q. I think as Bing too. So different search have what they are using, but most of them follow the Google pattern. For example, I can just search for HTML here. As you can see, after can you see that they are using the same thing too. They are using Q. So if you inspect the code and you check that controls, you look at the name they are using, and that name you are using there, that's what the thing will use to send the data. As you can see, they are using the same thing. The styling is just what is different. I can see the name too is Q, which is short form for query. So that's why I say you only use something that is descriptive. Like, when we want to collect username, I give it a name of a user. When I want to collect password, I give it a pass, which is just a short form for password. So usually here too, short form for username, or I can even type username in full. It all depends on you, the name you want to use to send the information, or what the backend is expecting from you later on. So you use the correct stuff, so like that. Or if you want to, can you use X, but it doesn't make sense, because once you finish your code now and you come back to it maybe in the next 6 months, you now be wondering that why did I use X here? What does X means for this place? But once you use a name that is describing what is going on there, anytime you see the stuff, you already know what that thing is doing without you doing too much of work to read what is going on. And that's why it's good to use a name that is good for what that thing is doing there like that. So we go to Facebook too, you see that all this one now, they are going to use a descriptive name for each one of the controls that is here. As you can see, the input, the type, can you see the name, first name? So you always use a descriptive name about, like, whatever you are collecting, you use something that is related to that, so that when you read the code, you don't need to know what is going on the page. Based on what you put on the code, you already know what is going on there like that. So let's generate this one now. This is our form that we have at the top. So let's have a registration form. Let's have a registration form down here, because I don't want to do too much with form. Or yeah, I don't want to do too much with form. Let me move to select right now. Let me move to select first. So inside the form, but I will do the other one too down here. So we want to have this our form. Inside the form, we want to have or let's just say H1. This is just like a registration form where we need your for example, as you can see this side now, for the registration or for the verification here, you need to supply the UTM, the surname, the first name, the email, and so forth like that. So yeah, let's collect their email. So we're going to have the label, which is going to be for the email, because that's the name I want to use for the ID. So it's going to be email address as the text that you are going to see, then BR, so that we can have it on another line. So input now, I want to use of type email, because when you want to collect email, we have another input for that. And the advantage of using this over text is that it will suggest email for you. Can you see? After clicking on that box, it brings out all the email that I've used before. Why? How does it know that is email that I want to use here? Is because they are using correct type at that place. So anywhere you use correct type, even though they are using text, but normally they are supposed to use input type of but some of these browsers, they are smart. Based on the label, it pick it up from here. But normally, you should always use input type of email for this in there. For example, now if I just type something that is not valid email and leave, as you can see here, it's not complaining that is not following pattern of email. But now let's do our own that we're using correct type now. So let me give it name of email. So the same thing is what I'm going to give to ID, which is going to be email. So when the form is submitted, it will send it through this email, but we are not submitting it. That's not what we are after there. So going back to the page, going back to our page, where's our page? I've used it to submit to Google. Go back, reload the stuff. As you can see now, we have email address. Now let me leave and just go there, or let me just type something that is not complete email like that. Can you see what is not showing? Please include, because it knows that what we are supposed to put there is email. And again too, you see that is do that suggestion too like that. So one, as you can see, is bringing it out too, because it knows that the browser, all the normal browser, all the modern browser, once you use that correct type, they will suggest what you need to type there based on what you've used before on the system like that. And again, it will make sure that whatever you are typing follow the pattern of email, not that it is correct. It doesn't care about whether the email is correct or not. What it's just looking for is that it have that pattern of email. So if I try to submit this for now, it will tell me to fix the stuff that it must contain that at and the dot, whatever stuff at the end of it. So now, let me just have a button to just register like this. So save and click on register. That's not what I want. So type something here like this. As you can see, what is saying now. Please include whatever stuff. But with that side, they are adding their own custom validation, which require JavaScript, but we don't have JavaScript right now. So that's why you see that the border is turning to red and there's a message coming out. Can you see that? They are doing it themselves, but the browser can actually handle it for you once you use of that type email out of the box. But if you need a custom one that you need to do it, so you have to do it yourself, which require JavaScript there like that. But right now, we don't care about that. We are dealing with HTML here. So let me move this thing to the side. And after that, I want to have BR here. So after this to BR, I want to have another control here, which is going to be the label here. So this one is for full name. So whatever you want to put here, that will be your full name like that. So BR again, then input. No, this one is text, because anytime you want to collect any full name, username, whatever stuff like that, is text. We don't have any control for them. So this one is going to be full name. That's how we are going to send it. So for the ID too, it's going to be full name, because it needs to match the 4 that we have at the top here. So save it, and now we have our box for. So why is the label like this? So we need to have BR here. What's going on? Save. So now we have this our box for full name. Can you see that I pick it up? Because the browser are smart. Based on your level too, they can figure out what's all this common stuff. Since I mentioned full name, that's why I see that. Can you see that it pre-filled the stuff based on what I've used before? So it filled the email box and it filled the one for the full name, because it sees the label. Once you use all this common label that filling into the browser, and you've done something like that before, it will autofill it for you like this. But if you do something that they don't understand, or that you have some custom data you want to collect, they might not be able to fill it like that. But most of the data you want to collect is something that the browser knows about them, and if you've done something like that before, it will pre-fill it for you. But this is not the major stuff that we want to talk about here. What we want to do here is that we want to collect the gender now. And you know, gender, you can only pick one. That's when you say you are male and at the same time you want to be female. No, you have to pick one. So we need radio button here. So to generate radio button, we need our inputs there like that. But now it's going to be of type radio like this. Again, I'm going to generate another one down here because we need the one for male and we need the one for female like that. But I want them to be able to, like, as you are clicking on the label, it will trigger them. So it's better we put the label there. So this one is going to be for male. That's going to be the ID for that one. So this is male. And the first one is going to match the male. So this is radio. So for the second one, we're going to have another label now for the, so this one is going to be for female. Then the text is going to be female. Then the ID too is going to be female like this. And lastly, we have another one which is going to be order. If you don't want to specify, then again this is going to be order. Then the checkbox too is going to be input. Then radio, not checkbox. So the name or the ID is going to be, you can say I'm skipping name because I need to come back to it. That's why I skip it, because that name is very important when you are dealing with radio. The name is very important. That's why I skip it, so that you see what will happen when you don't use it. So the ID of this one is going to match that one, which is going to be order. As you can see now, we have the label. So once I click on the text, as you can see, it will activate it. I don't need to go to that stuff to activate the stuff. So but now look at what is happening. He is choosing everything. That's why I say it doesn't work like that by default. And again, you cannot remove it. Once you pick it, you cannot remove it because we did not connect them in the correct way. So you have to connect them in the correct way. And how do you connect them together? Is by using name. So when you have multiple radios that you want them to belong to the same family, that means only one of them can be picked at a time. All of them must have the same name. You know, it's only one you want to send. So whatever name you give to the first one, that's like the way we give full name here. So here now we can just give it gender like this. So since we give the first one gender, it means second one too have to be gender. No difference. So gender. So these two now are connected together, but the last one is not connected to them. Even if you give this one two name, maybe like sex, they are not the same. So these two are connected, while this one is not. So now if I click on male and now click on female, as you can see that it works. But if I click on this one, it will not, because it's not part of that family. So in order for your radio to be connected together, they must have the same name, because it's only one you are sending. So they need to be connected so that they will know that you've picked one. Since you picked that one and you go and click on another one, it will remove from the previous one and it will put it on the current one. So in order for this one to be there, then it means we need to call it the same name. Now the three of them are connected together. So we have female, we have male, we have a female, and we have this order. Or instead of me doing it like this, I can just move them to a separate line so that it will just be like this. And instead of the label to come first, you can move the label down for no, can't do it like that because BR will not work. So let me move the label down first, and after the label I will use BR. The same thing here too. Label should come down because we want to see the dot first before the label, because it's not looking nice like that. So here we're going to have BR, and this one too come down. I don't need to put BR to this one because double BR is there already. So save, and now as you can see, this thing is coming first because of the arrangement. So now I click on this, it will pick male, then click on order, it will go to that one. You can only pick one at a time. But at some time, the information you want to collect, they can pick multiple out of it. So the information that we want there, we want them to be able to supply the, what can I even put, they like the course that they want to not further, like whatever course, like we have we are creating like a boot camp, and you can pick any course that you want to go with, but not that you have to pick one. You can pick as long as you can pay for them. Just pick, because that's what we want. We don't want to limit you to one. You can pick multiple courses there. So that's where checkbox now comes in like that. So for example, here now, we can just have this inputs now. But before I get to that, let me use WBR again here so that we can have enough space. So here now I'm going to have the input, but instead of radio, it's going to be checkbox. So the name here, I'm going to call it courses like that. The name too should always match, but it doesn't matter. But when you want to send them together, it's better you put the same name. And you can see this one now, I'm putting S because you can pick multiple. So not just one. But this one I did not say genders, it's just gender because it's only one of them that I can pick. But here you can pick multiple. So it can be one or more than one, or it can even be zero if you don't pick anything. So for this one, the ID is going to be web development like this. And as you can see, where I'm supposed to use space, I'm bridging it with underscore because it's not good that you put space in ID like that, because to now be two text, it means you are using two things to represent one this thing. So this is going to be label. So for the label, it's going to be web development like this so that it can be connected together. So the text is going to be web development like this. So after this, we're going to have our BR. So what I just need to do, let me save it first so that I can see it. As you can see now, you see that it wants to look the same, but this one is square, while that one is circle. So let me just duplicate it multiple times and just update some of the stuff there. The ID should always be different. So this one I will just call it data analysis like this. So this one too is going to be data. So copy the ID so that it matches the stuff. The name will still be the same. Something is wrong here. This did not close. As you can see, there's a problem here. So it might not be easy to fix, but that's why the color. But because I see that the color did not match again, I was able to quickly see that something is wrong. So all these colors, they are there for something. Once you use them, you get used to it. So for this one, let's just say graphics design like that. So copy it and give it as a 4, and this one too is going to be graphics design. So now we have all this. Why is the spacing too much? How many BR do I have there? I only need one. Yeah, for this one too, why is it having two? Or this one is not supposed to be here? Yes. So now, as you can see, we have, so you can pick this if you want. You can pick this too. Not that is only one you can pick. Even if they are not connected together, you can select them separately. But since they are in a particular group, like we are talking about one, we are talking about courses, so that's the reason why we give them the same name. So by the time you submit this form, you see that to send them through whatever name you are using. So it is mail. So the email address is going to be this. Then register. And once you submit, can you see the email is what I type? Then the full name is that same thing that I type. The gender now, can you see? But the gender is not what I was expecting it to show. What is it showing? It's showing on. Normally, what I click on is male, but it's not showing on. So that's not what I want. The same thing here to look at all these courses. As you can see, it says courses on, courses on. So all these things, they are kind of crazy. And why are they doing that? Is because there's some other attribute that we need to supply here so that it knows that, okay, this one is male, this one is female, this one is other, this one is web development, this one is whatever stuff like that. You know, when you are dealing with a box, you are typing it. But this one now, you know, is not that something that we type. It's inside the label. You know, what we check is label, not the actual input itself. We did not type anything there. So by default, it's just default to any one of them you click on is on. The one you don't click on is off or like that. So how do we now give them value? Like all those ones that you cannot type, how do you give them value? So we have another attribute here known as value. So this one now we can just give it graphics design, that same name. So for this one, the value is going to be data analysis. So for this one, the value is going to be web development. The same thing too here. The value for this one is going to be order. The value for this one is going to be female, and lastly the value for this one is going to be male. You can do it too for other controls. So like all this one you can type, those are all those one you can type. Once you give them value, that's what you see on the screen by default. Even though you can change it, but that's what you see there. I will show you soon. So let me just put this in by this side. So go back to the page. Now let's pick the male. Let me fill the form again. So web development, I want to do graphics, or I want to do data analysis like this. So now register. So by the time can you see now the gender is now male. It's not on again because we give it value. So any one of them you click on, it will pick the value that is. No, we did not talk to it to pick the value. It's because we wrap everything inside a form element. So it will do all those magic behind the scene. It will prepare the data that you type, and it will send it to whatever the address where you want to send it. As you can see now for the courses, we are selecting web development, and at the same time we are selecting data analysis. So wherever you are sending this data to, they will receive all of them, and they will process whatever they need to process. But for now, we don't care about the data submission. We only care about the control itself there like that. But instead of us using this method now, we can use another method, which is the actual stuff that we want to do, which is now select. Because once this thing that you are putting here is really long, you can see that it's taking space. That's where select comes in. So when you have like all this radio stuff where they can pick one item at a time, and the list of the item like countries, you know, you cannot list it like this. It will be really long. So instead of you listing out the stuff, you can now use select, because that one is compact. You know, it's only when you click on the box that the thing will expand. And when it expands, it will give you the scrolling to move up and down. And once you select the one you want, it will close it back. Not that this one that everything is just showing at the same time. So your radio is really useful for a short list. But once you have a long list, just go with select directly. Or you can even use select for short one too. It all depends on your preference there. But majorly, if it is really long, as you can see for the date now, so as you can see, you can only pick from 1 to, you know, it's static, you know the value. So you just give them the option, not that they will be the one that will type the stuff out. So here too, we know the gender already, that it will be these 3 options like that. So instead of us now doing it in this way, we can use the select method. So down here, before closing the stuff, we can do the select. But here now, we want to do it for another thing, which is going to be colors. So the colors you want, and you can only pick one color of the shirts that you want to receive at the trainees grant there, like that. You can't give you 2 color, 2 shirts. It's only one. Or whatever you want to pick, one color. The color you pick there is the shirt that you're going to receive. You can't receive 2 shirts there. So here too now, we can now use select now. This one is not doing like the input that it can behave in different way. Select is just doing one job, and that's why it is. They are not much. Even the text here too is not that much. It's just one job, but it's the input that can behave in different way. And based on the type you want to use, will determine the attributes you are going to supply to it. But select and text area, those one is just one way. There is nothing like any other way to work with them. So this select, as you can see, if you want to send the detail, you need to supply the name. And if you have the label beside it, you know, for example here now, we want to have the, so the label is going to be color or shirt color like this. So this is going to be shirt color, that's the label. Then after the label, we want to have BR. Then yeah, the name is going to be shirt color too, because that's what we want to use to send it. So for the ID, it's still going to be shirt color because we are connecting it to the label. So inside this select, what are we going to be doing? Can you see that I will have open and close? It's not like the input that is self-closing. This one have, so which means you need to put something inside it. Can you see what it's showing? By default, that select is just a box where you can click to bring out the options. So in order for you to actually see the content inside it, you need to give it all the content, all the option that you want to show on the screen. And we have a tag for that too. So option like this. So the value, just like the way we do for all those radio, whatever stuff, whatever you put under the value, that's what it will send along. But I will not put the value because this one is smart. Whatever you put in between option, if you don't put the value, it will pick it up directly. So if you don't put this value and you just put it in between like this, it will still pick it up. It's not like the radio that you have to give it the value attribute. But yeah, if you don't give it and you just pass it inside the option, it will use it as a value. But if the value are different, maybe what you want to show to the user is not the same thing as what you are sending there. Because sometimes, can you see here now, ID is having underscore. But what we are showing to them is not having that. So maybe this is what you are sending, but this is what you want to show. You know, the value that you are sending and the one you want to display is different. So what you want to display will be here. Then the value you want to send, you supply it as attribute. But if it is the same thing, just pass it there directly. The browser is smart. It will use it as value for you automatically. So here, we're going to have the blue. So here, we're going to have the red. Here, we're going to have the orange and so forth like that. And at the same time, I will duplicate it again. Let me use another BR here. So BR like this. So down here, let me just duplicate it. Do I need this down one? So yeah, I think I need this because I want to use for something. So here we're going to have the country. So where are you applying from? Like that. I'm still going to be using select. So this is going to be country like that. So for this is going to be, let me select the two of them at once. So country like that. But instead of having all these blue, orange, whatever stuff, you know, you're applying from Nigeria. So you want to come from Ghana. So this is where the country we are supporting right now. So we have UK, which is going to be United Kingdom like that. So we have what other one? So we have Kenya like that, and we have lastly we have the South Africa like this. So these are the countries we are supporting right now, and you can only pick from this option. So now save. Can you see now? We have this thing coming out on the screen. So you fill in all this information. Now the blue, as you can see, it brings out, by default it's picking the first one, but I can switch it to another one. And by default too, this your check, this your select, it behaves like radio by default. You can only pick one item at a time. You can't pick two, but you can actually turn it to multiple selection there. But we don't use it like that. Most of the time you use it to pick one item, but you can actually talk to it that it should be multiple. So you just need to give it that attribute multiple here. Once you give it that attribute multiple, it means the user can pick, as you can see now the way it's displaying is different. So now I can pick Nigeria, and at the same time, just hold out the control, I can pick Kenya. But this is not making sense. Why you say you are coming from Kenya and Nigeria? So we don't want it like that. Just one country can be picked up. By default, we are setting it to Nigeria, but you can actually change it to any other country like that. And from there now, you can click on register. And once you register now, can you see that country is Kenya? Then the shirt color is blue. As you can see that it's picked the blue. I did not specify the value. To pick what you put inside that option. The full name, I did not type anything, is empty. Email, I did not type anything, is empty. But I can only talk to them that you must type something inside it. But all those ones, we'll be dealing with them later on. And lastly, the one we have there is text area. So just type text area like this. This is another tag that we can text area. So as you can see, this one too is a control, because if you want to send it, you need to use the name, and if you have a label beside it too, you can attach it through the ID. So the label of this one is going to be about like that. So for the text, it's going to be about you like that. So for the name, it's going to be about, that's what we are using to send it. Then for the connection, it's going to be this. So save, and on the page, you see that we now have a box where the user can type, but it's not looking nice. Let me use BR here first, and again, it's now another line. So with this one now, the user can type, and the typing is going to go to multiple lines like that. So now we have the form that we can use to collect details from the, so you are creating a site where people can order from you, or they can, you know, purchase something from you. They need to drop their address where you are going to deliver the stuff to, like that. So you can create a page where you use all this control to get the necessary information that you need, and it will be sent to the backend. All those one will be dealing with them when we get to the JavaScript part. But for now, we are talking about how to bring out all the controls. Later on, how to style the control, then how to now add interaction to controls. Then combining everything together, then you too, you'll be able to have functional stuff like the way it is on the site, like that. Once I click on submit and everything is filled successfully, you see that it work. But because I've not filled all this, that's why it take me back there that you have to fill this stuff. But for now, we don't care about that. We just care about bringing in the controls, like that. So in the next class here now, we are going to be starting with the CSS, because we already have some of the basic HTML that we need. You can see that everything I've talked about is what is going on here. There is no new thing that is, or there is nothing that is here that we've not talked about what you can use to do them. The only thing that we are not doing now is the styling of them. So if you look at the way this one is, you can see that it's inside a box. You see that the line around this one is orange, or like this, or this yellow, whatever stuff, or which is orange. See what they have here, the button they have here. See that the background is different from our own. We should be able to do something like this too, and that's why we need the CSS, like that. So as from next class, we're going to start with CSS. But before we jump into CSS, we're going to talk about the grouping element, because some of this stuff here, you need to group them together. Look at what you see. See that everything, they are like in a box here, and that box is isolated from every other thing. The same thing here, you see that here, the background that is here is not touching this side. It's only here. It's because that thing is a group on its own. And whatever you are doing in that group will not affect any other group on the page. And that's what you can use to, isolate different areas of the site by styling them separately or giving them whatever looks you want without affecting any other content on the page. And we're going to start from there by talking about some of the grouping elements you can use. On this page, they are using some of them. But as from next class too, you see each one of them. They are using like something like div. They are using something like header, footer, and so forth like that. As you can see, div, which is the common one there. Can you see that this thing is telling you that, see that it group all those areas together. Again, if I click another one, or if I inspect this one, you see that this one too is a group on its own, like that. And inside the group, can you see that is form? Can you see that there's an action? So once you send this in, this is where it's sending the stuff to. All your form, it will group them together and send it to that place. But it's using the method known as post, like this. So what is post? We're talking about those one when we get to the advanced parts. We don't need them right now. The one you just need is the control. So that will be all for today. Let me stop recording.